Hey guys, hope you're enjoying your weekend so far, and thanks for joining me here on the pilot episode of the Saturday Morning Soapbox. This is dated for July the 7th. I'm obviously not recording this live, so I'm not exactly doing this in a Saturday morning. It is Friday evening around 6-ish Eastern Standard Time here. It's not 35 degrees outside, which is another major plus. But this is kind of like a little test project I'm trying to do here, trying to get something other than just making, rant videos back and forth. So this is kind of a little attempt at something to see if I can get it going. Now, I wanted to do this for a while. I've been wanting to essentially do some sort of a podcast every week, and I figured Saturday morning kind of fit very nicely. But right now, because of the situation that I'm in, because of the placement of where I am, it's kind of hard to get a live show together because I don't have easy access to my router, so my internet connection is kind of crap. And as I've seen with a few live things that I have shot, like my microphone doesn't even end up sounding good. It ends up conking out because the connection is just not it's not holding up. Like the upload speed just isn't working. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do it live, but for the time being, this is going to be something that I probably record like the Friday evening going in or whenever I have a chance to do it. I'd not even say this is going to be a weekly thing right now, just because I don't know what my schedule ends up being like. It's so busy here in the summer that, in fact, there's going to be one weekend at the end of July that there's going to be no way I can record anything because I will literally be completely away from my computer for 3 days from Friday to Sunday. So it's not, for the time being, it's not a weekly thing, but hey, I aim for it to be so at some point. So the gist of this show is that it's going to be a lot of just stories from various walks of life that I go through. I mean, I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd of many things. I am a giant gamer. I am an otaku. I love music. I'm a big guy when it comes to professional wrestling. Hell, I'm a sports guy. Like, there's a lot of things that I put my hand into. There's a lot of doors I like to open. I got my thumbs in a lot of pies, So this is kind of a show that I feel like it's a chance for me just to kind of shoot the shit with you guys. Like, I can always make videos that are very specific on a certain topic, and that's awesome. And I love being able to do that in a timely manner, but there are some things where it's like, I'm not really, I'm not in a rush to make a video about it. So I figure what I can do is, because there's always something every week that I see, there's either something I want to say, or there's a news story that comes out, or anything of that sort to kind of pique my interest, but it's not the kind of thing that I'm like, oh my god, I need to stop whatever I'm doing and the next chance I get to record this and start putting this together. It's not going to happen all the time. So I figured this is a good place to start. So on this show, there's a couple of things I'm going to go through. At the beginning of every show, once we get this format down, I plan to just kind of talk the shit with you guys about what's going on with me, and that's probably how everything will start off. And then from then on, we'll get into other important stuff. So in the order of sequence, obviously, I'm going to talk a little bit of what's going on with me, and then, I'm probably also going to give you a bit of an update on what I want to do with the channel and that kind of stuff, because I'm still trying to figure it out as I'm still trying to, put my schedule together. But in terms of actual topics, there are a few things I want to talk about now. As a sports guy, and a Toronto guy, obviously this has not been, the biggest possible weekend last weekend for Toronto. That didn't happen, but I'll get into stuff that happened there. There's a really interesting story that PC Gamer put out a few days ago about unpopular gaming opinions, and I thought that'd be an interesting thing to look at. And the last thing that I'll go into, normally I do a solo video for it, and I might even do it taking from this podcast, but I want to go through my anime awards that I did for the entire season from the spring, because it's probably a good place to put it on this podcast because it's short as hell, because I only finished with 6 shows, but we'll get into that as we go along. So the last week has been awesome and extremely bad at the same time. Anybody who's been living in the Southern Ontario area, and I don't know how far the heat wave has spread. I know Quebec has seen some pretty nasty stuff. Like, I think the death toll from Quebec alone has been almost 40 in this heat wave that we've had for the past week. And finally, today is the first day where it was not, 30 with an extra 10 degrees almost on top of it with the humidity, because it was just getting ridiculous. I mean, it was fun. Like, Canada Day was obviously last Saturday. I mean, I know for my American friends out there, you had the 4th of July not too long ago either. So there's been a lot going on, and it wasn't the best long weekend for me, because we get the Monday off. Even though Canada Day is the Sunday, we get the Monday off, obviously, because otherwise it wouldn't have been a stat holiday. And it was all right. I mean, I've never been too big ever since, like, once I got into my teens. Like, Canada Day didn't end up being, like, the biggest day to me. Like, I'm not a fireworks guy. Like, I like watching fireworks, but I wouldn't go out of my way to, like, drive to some place, sit in a park for a couple hours and wait. Like, I can't do that. That bores the hell out of me. I need something to do. So it didn't exactly work out that way. But it ended up being an okay weekend. Like, I ended up going and seeing, or at least me and my girlfriend, we went and saw her stepmom, and we hung out there. They're like about an hour north from the nearest big city, and it's nice countryside area out there, and it was actually pretty good for the humidity because it actually temperature drops quite a bit out there rather than in the city where it doesn't matter what time it was 30 wherever the hell you went, where at least out in the country, by the time we got to midnight, it was at least in the 20s and kind of almost got to the low 20s, which was really nice when you're trying to go to sleep and that stuff. And it was fun. Like, I got burnt to hell, but it was fun. The Monday really sucked. Absolutely sucked. Because there's no AC where I live. So I had fans. I had a ceiling fan that basically did nothing but just push the hot air around in a circle. And I had a desk fan that basically just kept whatever portion of my body it was pointed at the time from not overheating. Sleeping sucked. I probably woke up like 7 different times because, it's just not comfortable. And I woke up that morning, looked at my pillowcase and said, yeah, you're going in the wash when I get home. Because I sweat a lot. Or at least I sweat a lot when it's 35 degrees outside, even at, the dead of night. But one thing that I did enjoy from the long weekend was the Toronto stuff. And as a Maple Leafs fan, it was great. We sat there and thought, when John Tavares, and obviously if you are a sports fan or a hockey fan that's lived under a rock, John Tavares, who usually plays for the New York Islanders, was a free agent in this season, and he decided to do something that no one expected him to do, and that was to sign with not only the Maple Leafs, but his hometown Toronto Maple Leafs. When free agency was on the horizon, we knew that he was going to be a free agent because we had already gone through the whole Steven Stamkos stuff. Because we all figured it's a great fit for him. The offense is just getting ready to boom out, and this would be the perfect, guy to complement that. And as most people were led to assume, in hockey especially, like obviously we see right now in the NBA with LeBron James moving to his, 10,000th different team that he's going to try to win a championship with. Major League Baseball, you see guys moving all the time. Same with the NFL. NHL, honestly, superstar players do not move very often. You will see a lot of players that will either finish their careers there or will spend the last year or two on another team just trying to win a cup before they retire. And that's usually players that have never won a cup. Case in point, as a Leaf fan, Matt Sundin was a big example. Jerome McGinley, he used to play for Calgary. Guys like that, they will try to move to another team. But generally speaking, in the NHL, a superstar caliber player does not move unless one of two things happen. One, he absolutely hates the team he's playing for whatever reason. We're obviously seeing that right now with Erik Karlsson on the Ottawa Senators. Or it's the opposite. The team hates whatever this guy's doing and they try to get rid of him. Take PK Subban with the Montreal Canadiens. Seems like a Canadian thing too, doesn't it? But yeah, like when I think it was a couple of years ago that we became aware that Tavares would be a free agent, and we all just joked the idea is like, oh yeah, he would totally sign with Toronto after. Ha 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 ha. That's never gonna fucking happen, right? And we still believe that going into free agency. Now, we knew the Leafs were a contender. We knew that they had put in a pitch, and we knew that they had a shot at it because, let's be honest, you can be the most ardent Leaf hater, but that team has a very bright future, and it also has the idea that there is no bigger marketing machine, and you will not make any more money on the side of your salary than you will in Toronto. However, there is also the downside of the media mass. There is the fan absolute destruction that happens if you don't do well. The mobbing is ridiculous. So there was a lot of assumptions that, there's already reasons for Tavares to not want to come here. At the same time, he's a hometown kid. He grew up a Leaf fan. Maybe he'd want to, but it all comes down to a few things. It comes with whether he wants to move. How's his family situation like, in New York? What's the salary going to be like? Are there teams that are offering him more? Is there a certain thing that he's looking for? Like, you never know. But most people just assume, like anything else, oh, he's a star player. He's either not going to move or he's going to go wherever the biggest amount of money is. And we all assume that because the Toronto Maple Leafs still have to worry about signing Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, there's a lot of factors in there that we figure, well, even if the Leafs, put in an offer, it's not going to be a big enough offer to make him want to go. And then Saturday came along, where we knew that if he didn't sign with the Islanders by that Saturday, that would be it. That was going to be the clue that he was moving to some other team. And even when Saturday came and went, I still sat there and went, I mean, it could happen. I'm still not going to assume it happened. And then by the time I went to bed, just like, I think it was like 1 a.m. on Saturday, or I guess it would have been Sunday at that point. There were rumblings a little bit that it's really just San Jose and Toronto that were in the mix. And I'm thinking, wow, it's really a coin flip? What? Okay, we had what was it to get Austin Matthews for the first overall pick? Was it 30% chance or was it 13? I can't remember what the number was. But we won, and I still have that like cynical Leafs fan part of my head that goes, no, we've already been lucky once. There's no way it's happening again. I got up on Sunday morning, 9-10 o'clock-ish, and I just take a look at Twitter, see what's happening. I'm not expecting any news yet, and I don't see anything official, but what I see are a few writers, not any major insiders from like Sportsnet, TSN, that kind of like, no one's saying that, but there were a few people being like, I've been told that he has agreed to sign with the Leafs. And I'm looking at that being like, well, it's Twitter. You can take whatever you want. But my radar is now officially on and ready. And as the day keeps going, the message isn't changing. It continues, and it continues, and it continues. And no one's saying anything other than it looks like he's going to Toronto. And that's when you as a Leafs fan, you start to clamor up a little bit. You're like, no, don't trick me. I don't want to be fooled like this. And it kept going. Still nothing to ward us off. And finally, out of nowhere, it just becomes official. And there's that part of me that, at the time I was sitting there being like, no, I'm gonna wake up at some point, right? Like, this is ridiculous. And also, what the hell's wrong with my brain to actually like try to trick me into thinking that John Tavares is coming to Toronto as like a dream. Like my brain loves to screw with me when it comes to dreams, but I figure it's got a few better ideas than to just, put something towards sports. But I digress. It happened, and I happened to watch live with Steve Dangle on YouTube. He's a Sportsnet guy, and he is a great YouTuber when it comes to reacting to Maple Leaf games and hockey news altogether. Fantastic YouTuber. I've got to meet him in person. Super cool dude. And to see him, to live vicariously through him, because I'm a big Leafs fan. This guy is like the biggest Leafs fan I've ever seen. And to watch him like groan and like be all giddy because he's like, he doesn't want to believe it's going to happen, but in his heart he's like, no, it's totally happening. It has to. And to see that just pure joy and adulation that it was an official thing, it's amazing, both as a Leaf fan and as a fan of Dangle, to watch him become just as happy. Because it means so much more than just getting a good player. It means that our future for at least another 7 years is looking pretty goddamn good. Because when you think about it, Tavares is with us for 7 years. He signed for a $77 million deal, which, by the way, was a discount compared to other offers. Apparently, he got an offer of almost $13 million a year, and he took 11 to go with Toronto. That means so much alone that he would take such a hometown discount, and even take a discount because that means he understands that the core that we have on this Leafs team needs to stay, and that means Matthews, Marner, Nylander, specifically those three. And Kyle Dubas, the GM, has also said that it is our full intention to sign all of these guys. Nylander obviously is up right now. Marner and Matthews, I believe, are next year, or one or two of them the year after. Either way, it's coming, and it needs to be. We need to prepare for it. And with Tavares at $11 million, you do have to wonder a little bit, okay, well, all of these guys are going to be somewhere around the 7 to 11 range, you would imagine. So that's a lot of money to tie up in 4 guys. However, they always seem to find a way around it, and some people were saying, oh man, they got to get rid of Nylander now because there's no way they're going to keep him all right. And I said, Tavares had a 3-hour meeting with these guys. Do you think that he would not have asked about what their plan was to do with those three? He probably said straight up, look, if I'm coming on this team, I'm coming on because of the potential I see in these guys. If you are going to get rid of them, I'm out. This isn't what I want to deal with. I don't want to deal with people being upset that we got rid of our like futures. And you know that they had to tell him, like, yeah, no, here's our plan for how we're keeping them. And they've probably already talked to agents. They've probably, talked to the players and said, hey, like, what would you do if this happens? I wouldn't be surprised if even before they signed Tavares, they went up to either any one of the three guys or all three of them and said, hey, we're taking a good shot at Tavares. If we can manage to get this guy and say we pay him around this price, would you be willing to maybe take a little bit of a discount to keep this core together and try to win a few cups? Who knows? You never know. But you got to imagine, if they do sign Nylander and we do have our main core for this season, think about the three lines that we have. The projections that people are kind of popping around on Twitter and Sportsnet and stuff like that suggest that we should see Marleau, Matthews, Nylander as the first line. Okay, that's a good start. Then you realize the second line is Hyman, Tavares, Marner. So you have Hyman to dig out the puck, Tavares to dish out the puck, and Marner to roof it. Okay, that sounds pretty good. But I mean, okay, we get to the bottom six, it's probably not going to be that great. And then they put out the third line, potentially, Andreas Johnsson, Nazem Kadri, and Kasperi Kapanen, or even Connor Brown for that matter. And you go, oh. So we have two first lines as our top two, and a second line on a Stanley Cup contender as our third line, or, a first line on a not a playoff contending team, I should say. And at that point, the fourth line is who really cares at that point. Now, they just signed Tyler Ennis today as I'm recording this, so that's an interesting fit too. And for only $650,000, that's not bad. But, long story short, as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, I'm so friggin' excited for what I'm seeing because it's something I never thought would happen. I've been growing up and being a Leaf fan since, the 90s when I was old enough to really understand things. And, there was a phase during the Sundin era where it was pretty damn close. And then since then, it hasn't really been. Like, it's been such a long time since we've had a competitive team like this. And to be able to see it live, to be able to know that even this season now, we have a Stanley Cup contending team. Especially if they sign Nylander, we have a Stanley Cup contending team. And that's that's counting the fact that we don't have a quote-unquote elite defense core. Which, by the way, not every team has both an elite offense and elite defense. That's just not a thing. It's in the cap era, it's impossible to do that. But yeah, man, as a Leafs fan, like, words cannot really express just how excited I am. But I mean, holy shit, dude. Like, this is going to be a fun year. So anyways, I noticed that the second I started talking about Tavares, I realized, oh crap, I already went out of turn in the order. So I was going to give a brief channel update. I don't really have too much to go with. I think that's probably why my brain didn't even equate to, oh hey, you were supposed to talk about this then. There's not a whole lot that's new. I mean, like I said, the podcast here is an attempt to kind of put some more content in, but ideally, the goal is to continue the things the way they are. The blog is obviously not going to see nearly as much writing. I think almost at this point that unless I just happen to feel like writing something, the blog is going to mostly be just reposting my videos here on YouTube and then the weekly anime reviews. That's basically probably the only thing in writing you might see is the anime reviews now every week. The summer one will obviously come on Monday. I've started watching a few shows here and there. As I say this, I've only watched the badminton anime Hanabado and what was the other one? Island. And the badminton anime is fine, but I need it to be a little goofier. If it's going to be this serious right off the bat, you're kind of going to lose me quickly because I don't... Like I've said it before, I don't watch anime to be either depressed or overly serious. So when you start off that way, you risk losing me pretty quick. And it almost did, but the characters are interesting enough that I'm kind of curious to see what happens. And Island it's pretty good for the first episode. There's enough interesting things that I'm looking into. The characters are fine. It's funny. There's enough there to be like, all right, I'll see what goes with this. And probably after this video, as I start to edit it out, I'll probably start watching a few more and see how things are going there. But the summer season is definitely exciting for me, so there's obviously that to look forward to, and I'll get into the anime awards at the end of this podcast when we go into the spring. So anyway, back to the channel. The gist is, what I want to do right now is, this is a show that I kind of want to use as like, not necessarily a dump, but as a place to kind of get all the little things that I don't really think warrant a video, or at the very least, it's the kind of thing that I can just talk normally about. Because the idea of this show is not to be like, okay, here's this thing that's really pissing me off and I need to go crazy about, here's this news story. No, it's more just like, hey, you know, there are things that I just want to like shoot the breeze on. There are things that I don't take that seriously, and I just kind of want to have a little bit of fun and chat about. And I can always do that with friends, but at the same time, to be able to profess it like this is also fun too. I mean, I've understood for a long time, because I've been doing YouTube on and off for, oh my god, must be almost 7 years. I can't remember when the first video was. It's probably not, it's not definitely not on the channel anymore, because I've kept deleting stuff as it comes, because I just try to rebrand this. The blog I've been doing for, I think we're at 3 years now, something like that. There's a lot of things I've been doing, and my audience has never really been anything more than small. And originally when I did it, it was just to kill time. It was something that I was really bored, and I just wanted something to do. And as I've kind of gotten more into things, it hasn't necessarily changed so much as I've just become a lot more vocal on things. I never really intended to go in the, I guess, anti-SJW direction. I did for a good period of time. I'm still in that camp per se, but I also do kind of associate it now as I'm just more like, can we just stop having politics blend into everything? Like when Kotaku, for example, puts out a video being like, game companies need to be more open about their politics in games, and I immediately go, no, they fucking don't. It's the way that I am with like the Battlefield trailer, where I did a video on that, you know, where I'm just like, can we stop putting politics into everything and just maybe, you know, play a video game and have fun? Like, is that too difficult to do? But I mean, I digress. But yeah, like I said, the channel has never really been a very, like, I've never gone viral with anything. I've never had a video that does like extremely well. I had a couple videos that have done better than all my other ones. Like, I have a Rocksmith review that I'm not proud of because it's a piece of shit and I didn't even play the game fully. I have a video where I took some shots at Enya Sarkeesian, and I kind of like that video, but, you know, it's, to me, I don't think anything I do is all that special. That's the problem. I think that's what a lot of YouTubers feel. They don't feel like anything they say, do, or show is really all that interesting. But I mean, it's something that I just find fun to do. And that's kind of how I feel on the channel. Like, the fact that I, you know, for example, on the blog, there are people that, I don't know if you're listening to this right now, if you're from the blog page, but I mean, you guys know who you are. You're the ones that are liking my content all the time on the blog. And don't think I don't know who you are. I may not respond to you every single time you comment, or I may not, you know, point you out every single time, but I know that you're there, and I know that you've not only stuck around for a couple months, there are some of you that have been sticking around for years, for almost the entirety of the blog page, and that's amazing to me in itself, considering that my Twitter account only has 115 followers, and my Gab page has, I think, 150. You know, I don't sit here, I think my subscriber count, I think everything I have in terms of social media is all in the hundreds. So, I mean, or I should say in the 100 mark, I should say. Hundreds makes it sound like I got more than that, which I wish I did, but I don't. To me, to even just have a few people that are that interested in my stuff that they're sticking around and paying attention to it every time I post something is amazing to me. And I don't think I can truly express how much that means to me, because, you know, sure, even if I only had 2 views on everything I ever do, I think I'd still do this because it's something to just kill time. It's something fun for me, and to be able to even have some sort of reaction to it is more than enough of a compliment to me, and I really appreciate that. So I want to try to at least give you guys something. I don't want to just wither away like at some point I had to with the blog, just because I couldn't write anymore. It got to a point where nothing was fun anymore, and I said that when I started dropping stuff. When stuff doesn't get fun for me to write anymore, there's no reason for me to do it, and this is completely fun to me. I keep trying to find new ways to do it, and that's why YouTube started coming back. I started, you know, talking again, because I wasn't, and I didn't really feel like writing as much, because I mean, I can type a 3,000 word article if I want, but it's eventually I'm going to get bored and my fingers are going to kill me because I overdo things and I get distracted by things, where at least if I sit down and chat it, I can keep going forever. I could go for 3 hours as long as I want. I want to keep this thing under an hour, but I always know that I never do. But the gist with this channel that I want to do is just to keep trying new things and to keep uploading more stuff. And this show is hopefully something that, while not necessarily on a weekly basis, is something that I can do to at least have something. And to be able to talk in a 100% realistic and, authentic manner. Like, I know there are some people, like, hell, I have friends that watch my stuff and have been like, why don't you edit it out like, guys like, say, Philip DeFranco and people like that do, where at least you take out all the flubs, you take out the ums and stuff like that. But I mean, I at this point, I'm not, if this was truly a job for me, if this was something that I was actually making a career out of, then I'd obviously put a lot more work into it. But considering that this is something I'm doing just for fun, and because, quite honestly, I feel more of a sense of myself, because I listen to all my stuff, I don't feel it when I edit it out like crazy. Like, I've watched that Anita video where I did do the editing stuff, and that was when I had a lot more time than I do now. And I watch it, and I do like the video, but it also does bother me that I take away a lot of the natural speech that I have, either when it comes to the pausing that I do, when it comes to the flow of dialogue, when it comes to me taking a moment to, and I'm doing this on purpose, by the way, to take a moment to, just find the words, like, see, that one was real. Just to be able to be myself. Like, I find that when I just do these long length, unpaused, unedited, sort of speech, it does come off more like I'm talking directly to you, or I'm listening directly to someone who is talking to me, rather than someone who is reporting. And I'm not a journalist. I'm not a reporter. I'm a regular Joe, dude. Like, I'm just a guy who's sitting here talking into a microphone. That's all I am, and I don't pretend to be anything else. So that's kind of just how I am with things. And the way that I want the channel to go is to kind of be the same thing. I just want it to be me being me. I don't want to, do over-the-top comedy, because that's not necessarily how I am. I just want to have this channel be me. And if only 130 people are interested in subscribing to a channel that's me, that's fine. If it ends up being, years down the road, 10,000, then cool. But I've always been in the aspect of, I'm not doing this to be famous. If I was doing it to be famous, I would definitely be trying a lot harder, and I would also be dirt fucking poor because I wouldn't be working. So I kind of got to look into it into completely different, two different sets of outlooks on things, and the one that I'm picking is the one that obviously won't affect me financially, and is just something that I get to do as a hobby, rather than to do something that stresses me out as I'm trying to make it a career. So anyway, back to the fun stuff. So PC Gamer, who I don't usually read stuff on, and honestly, when it comes to gaming news, I find myself now to use Kotaku and Polygon just to find the stuff that's going to make me laugh, because it's so terribly, like, politically one-sided and completely biased and honestly poorly written. I usually use n4g.com because it's a mishmash of various places, and I get a lot more variety of stuff. And they showed up an article from PC Gamer, and it's called "What's the Most Unpopular Gaming Opinion You're Willing to Stand By?" I'm going to tell you mine at the end of this, but they have, I guess, all of their writers, or at least some of them, giving their own unpopular opinions. And I thought it'd be really cool to go through them and, comment on some of them. And there are a couple of them that I don't have an answer to, so I'll quickly gloss upon those. But these are the ones that I saw, and I thought some of these are really interesting. So the first one is from Samuel Roberts, and he says Metal Gear Solid 5 has a good ending. I haven't actually finished it, so I don't even know if people think it was a bad ending or not. I picked up Metal Gear Solid 5 when it was free for PlayStation Plus, because I'm a PlayStation 4 guy. I already made my case on the crossplay thing, so I'll just make it short and sweet, since that's still a hot topic thing. I don't care right now, because for let's say about 25 years, I've been a gamer, and I've always been used to not having crossplay. Would I like it? Sure. Do I think it's necessary? No. Do I think PlayStation has any obligation to do it? No. So do I think these articles are getting a little over the top and they're shoving it down our throat to be like, you're supposed to hate Sony right now because we're either Xbox fanboys or we're Nintendo fanboys, or we just really want something to bitch about? Yeah, they are being a little overbearing. So anyway, moving back. Metal Gear Solid 5 I picked up for free on PlayStation Plus. I played maybe a few hours because I've been wanting to play it for a while and I just never had the chance to. So when it came for free, I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I really liked it. But as I find very often with games is if something is more interesting that I start playing and I really get into it, I completely put everything aside. So Metal Gear Solid 5 is kind of sitting on the back burner. Just in the way a lot of other games are. Hell, like if Far Cry 5 ever drops to under $30 Canadian, I'm rushing over to grab that thing right away and to start playing the hell out of that because I want to so badly. But I'm also in a financial state where I can't just be throwing around $80 left and right. So I got to be very careful and very selective, which is why, I end up picking games like Destiny where I can play for hundreds of hours, or I play a Monster Hunter World where I can keep coming back to every once in a while for something. So I always find ways around it. Metal Gear Solid 5, apparently it has a really good ending. I guess people seem to not think it had a good ending. I don't know. But the way that I see so far from the game is I like Metal Gear Solid 5 more than any of the other games I've played because I seem to be having a lot more fun with it because I'm just terrible at stealth games. Anyway, Joe Donnelly says The Witcher 3 is a good but not great game. I disagree with that only from the standpoint that I've played both Witcher 1 and 2 and absolutely fucking hated them. For multiple reasons, I just did not like the way that combat was set up in those games, and I felt it was a little too difficult and really hard to get into. Whereas Witcher 3 definitely was able to, I guess, streamline it just enough that it wasn't taking away from the hardcore players, but was enough for me to be able to get into and to be able to at least find something to attach to and be able to not be absolute garbage at it. And even without knowledge really of the story of 1 and 2, I was able to absolutely get immersed in that world. Geralt is a fucking fantastic main character. Hell, there was, I can't remember what the member of CD Projekt, it was the voice actor of Geralt who said, I would love to see a Ciri Witcher game. To which I said, yes, fucking please, yes, because Ciri is awesome. But yeah, I really got into the game altogether. I love Triss, I love Yennefer. All the characters in that game I pretty much found myself attaching to. The only thing that I guess I felt was that I didn't really feel much out of the villain. Now, if there was a reason for me to really be interested in that villain, maybe there was some lore from the past few games that led on to it. I didn't really understand necessarily what the fight was going on. But I did end up putting 150 hours into Witcher 3. I played a lot of that game. And I don't regret a single bit of it. It was fucking fantastic. I'm going to take a quick break here just to kind of blow my nose because my nose is running like a son of a bitch. So there is actually going to be an edit in this video. But yeah, taking a drink, blowing my nose because my nose is a runny fuck apparently whenever I talk. This is the thing. I'm going to finish this sentence before I take this quick edit pause. I don't know what it is. Whenever I do videos, I find that if I hit the half-hour mark, because I'm just looking at my Audacity file here. I'm at 32 minutes and 42 seconds almost. I don't know why, but apparently it feels like after half an hour, my nose decides, oh, you're doing something? Do you mind if I start running a little bit? And I go, fuck off, nose. No, you're not. Nose guys, all right, I'm going to start running now. But yeah, anyway, I will be right back. And by right back, I mean you're about to hear me again. Okay, we're back. My nose is a dick. All right. Anyway, next one was Tim Clark. Bungie should give up on PvP. This is a perfect one for me to go after because I'm a giant Destiny guy. I guess the simplest answer I can give is no. No, they should not give up on PvP. If Bungie would love to make a game that is just single player, make it. But Destiny has already... It's like anything else. Destiny has already been around for a few years now, and it's always had PvP. So stop, trying to tell us that, it needs to... It's not a fool's errand. Like, you can't just shut down something. I would love for Destiny to focus just on single player, or at least on the story, the missions, the lore, the raids, like stuff like that. But this is the company that made fucking Halo, and you're asking them to not have PvP. And by the way, this is one of my unpopular opinions. How I'll give it right now. I actually like 4v4 Crucible more than 6v6 because 4v4 allows me to actually have a sense of what the fuck is going on, whereas 6v6 was nothing more than people chucking in supers and grenades left and right, and I couldn't do anything. And yeah, people can, if you want to do the get good thing, by the way, I'm really good at Destiny 2 Crucible now, and it helped me get better at Crucible altogether. I actually go back and play Destiny 1 Crucible once in a blue moon with my community friends, and I'm not as bad. It taught me to be a little bit smarter. It taught me to actually understand the map a little bit better, because to have a little more freedom to move, I was able to at least plan a little bit better. With 6v6, and when it makes the changeover and I try it out again, maybe I'm still doing okay at it. But at the time, I like 4v4 because it's not fucking chaos. Which is why I don't like Call of Duty anymore, because that's all it is. It's chaos. There's no... It's no longer a game of strategy so much as it's a game of who's got the faster trigger finger and who can aim faster. Like, that's all it is. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, PvP should always be a part of Destiny. If you want to say Bungie should give up on PvP, that's even worse. Like, no. They're really good at PvP, and they're great at it. If you're just annoyed that people are fucking crying about PvP all the time, that's fans of any fucking game, so just knock it off. Andy Kelly says, the modern day bits in Assassin's Creed are good. I have not played every Assassin's Creed game. I have not played the last couple ones. I don't know if I'll play Origins, but I'm definitely interested in playing Odyssey. I didn't play Syndicate. I didn't play Unity. I didn't play 3. I played 1, didn't finish that. I finished all 3 Ezio games, and I played Black Flag, and that's where I've stopped for the time being. The modern day bits, for the most part for me, I didn't care. In all honesty, the Animus stuff was taking away from the fun stuff in the first game. The only part that I kind of enjoyed was the end of Assassin's Creed 2, where you're fighting guys in the real world and you realize, oh, that's a cool transition. Now I'm actually fighting like an assassin in the real world. That was cool. But there's not enough of them, and I don't know what they're like in the newer games to understand if there's anything different about them. But I guess the argument he's making here is there's a nice change of scenery that, instead of seeing the same stuff all the time, you get something a little bit different. I guess fine, but I don't think you necessarily have to make, like, I guess if they ever had a finish for Assassin's Creed, it would just be a modern game. And I guess that makes sense. But I mean, I'm fine with the way things are, and I don't think there's anything wrong. So, and honestly, an unpopular opinion, I don't know if it's necessarily unpopular so much as just like, it's a coin toss, I think, between people. Tyler Wild says, games have negative effects on people. That's not an unpopular opinion. That's just reality. That's just reality. Now, it depends on what you're talking about. I mean, with the whole thing with, like, say, game addiction, everything is addicting. But there's a difference between what people seem to think game addiction really is, and there's what it really actually is, which is the same thing as alcoholism and drug abuse and stuff like that. I came very close at one point to gaming addiction because I used to play EA Sports' NHL games for a while, and I would literally skip out on social engagements to go play NHL, EA SHL with sure, I'd still play with people. I still played with who I considered friends at the time, but I was playing them even though it was making me unhappy because I always got frustrated at it. That's when I knew it was coming close. But I mean, again, this whole unpopular opinion thing, games having negative effects on people is not unpopular. It depends on what those unpopular or what those negative effects are. If you're saying that it makes us violent, well, then we're going to have to go back to the research that says otherwise. But I mean, in terms of the statement as a blanket statement, it's not unpopular. It's just true. Phil Savage says, gaming is better now. I think games are always better because we keep finding new and more inventive ways. The graphics keep getting better, and we keep having more options. I don't think there is ever a better time to be a gamer, and every year will be a better time to be a gamer because you'll have more options. The difference that I'll say is the flip side to it is that because there's more, it means there's also the chance that more is going to be terrible. There are the chance for more games like E.T. back on the Atari era to exist. And the other thing is gaming is better now, but the gaming industry as a whole is actually worse. That's the thing that I have to say is that games themselves are better than they've ever been, but the practice that companies employ and the practice that the gaming press employ are worse than they've ever been. So there's that flip side. Stephen Mesner says, World of Warcraft is better than it's ever been. I have never played World of Warcraft, so I have no opinion on this. But as a guy who knows people who have been playing Warcraft since the very beginning, I'm glad to know that that is the case. And the last one here is from James Davenport, who says, the only reason you don't like Fortnite is that you're too lazy to try. I have Fortnite installed on my PlayStation. I have not put it on yet. And when I saw this, I said, maybe I should turn it on. It's not because I'm too lazy, or it's actually, sorry, I shouldn't say it's not that I'm too lazy to try. It's that I'm just caught up with something else. And I don't like it's not that I don't like Fortnite. I just, actually, you know what? I am very, like, I watched, when I was at my girlfriend's stepmom's place the other day, last weekend, her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend were playing Fortnite together, and they're both, I think, 12 or 13, and they were having a blast, and I was just having fun watching them play. You know, I don't usually like watching other people play games, but it was fun at that time. And I looked at it and said that it doesn't look like a bad game. It looks like the kind of game that you can just kind of put in a little bit of time to, and then you're done. Kind of the same way that I used to with Call of Duty, and now I just don't do anymore because Call of Duty's just gone in a direction I don't care about. But I don't hate Fortnite. Anybody who hates Fortnite is just hating on it because it's mainstream or because it's popular. If anything, I'm just annoyed that, you know, it's kind of being shoved in my face so much. The same way that, like, The Last of Us is shoved in my face so much. The same that, like, say, as an anime fan, My Hero Academia is shoved in my face all the time. But, I mean, that's the reality of things being popular, is you have to deal with that. You have to deal with, you know, the most popular thing being shoved in your face. I'm sure that hockey fans right now are sick and tired of stories about the Maple Leafs because Tavares got signed. I get it. It's the same thing that basketball fans are tired of hearing about LeBron. It's just how it is. So I'm not that upset about it. It's more just like, okay, I don't need to see like 10 Fortnite articles in the span of an hour. That's all. But in terms of that line, the only reason that you don't like Fortnite is you're too lazy to try, I think there's probably some truth to that when it comes to the people that truly do hate Fortnite, is they're just not trying it because either they're a PUBG guy or they just don't like Fortnite because, they're like, it's just a kid's fad. It's just all these stupid people playing blah, 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 whatever. It's just try it once. And I know I'm going to at some point. But anyway, when it comes to my own personal unpopular opinions, there are two that stand out to me. The first one is that I don't understand. In fact, I'll one up that. I think the Uncharted and Last of Us games are garbage. I have not played the fourth Uncharted. That is the only thing I will admit. When I moved to my current place, I did not have proper internet for probably a month or so because I thought we were going to get better internet and nobody else decided to run with the ball. So I got my own goddamn internet to fix that. But in the time, I couldn't play anything online, so my game choice was very limited. I was playing a lot of offline Rocket League. And, you know, I've always been talking about how, like, I played Uncharted 2 once for 5 minutes at a friend's house, and I didn't really like the controls that much when I played it. Same goes for The Last of Us. But at the time, I was just passing through Walmart, and I saw they had the Uncharted collection, which is 1, 2, and 3. They had it on sale for $15, and I said, look, if there's any time that I'm going to have a chance to actually play these games and see what the fuss is about, this is it. And who knows, maybe I'm proven wrong. I played through all 3 of them. To be completely honest, I wouldn't say I forced myself through them, but I was not having a good time the entire time I played them. I rated, I believe, Uncharted, the original one, a 4 or a 5, and then I rated the second one a 7, and the third one a 6. And keep in mind that Uncharted 2, for a lot of people, is one of the best games that they have ever played. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're wrong. But I think that the things that people talk about with Uncharted, and now The Last of Us too. By the way, I've played The Last of Us. I finally got the remastered for PlayStation 4. I got to the point where you meet, oh my god, what's his name now? The mechanic guy that you try to get a car from. I can't remember his name now. I got to him, and by the time I got to that point, I really was forcing myself. I absolutely was forcing myself to get to that point. Because I kept thinking, okay, but this is supposed to be like one of the greatest games ever made, according to people. There has to be something like later on that's really good about this game. And the longer I played it, the longer I'm like, no, this just isn't a good game. And it could just be me. But I mean, the way that I look at it with The Last of Us is just more that I don't need to be depressed while playing a video game all the time. I don't need to be stressed out. Uncharted, honestly, it was just uninspiring to me for a lot of it because it just ended up being a shooting gallery and not a fun one. Like Destiny is a fun shooting gallery. Call of Duty campaigns are a fun shooting gallery. Uncharted, apart from having, Nolan North as Nathan Drake and the quips, was not actually that entertaining. The stories are terrible. The villains are all bad. The boss battles are laughable. The combat is not that great. And hell, the controls don't even feel that good. So it was really hard for me to get into them. I might still play Uncharted 4 at some point just to see if maybe they kept improving it. But in all honesty, I don't see what people really loved about it. I guess, it's still my own opinion, but I have no problem with people liking it, but man, like the amount of people that told me that those are the best games ever, and to play them and be so underwhelmed by them. And I know it's not overhype because I'm very good at not hyping myself up. When I bought the Uncharted pack, I said, it's probably not going to be that good, but hey, I'll lower the bar, and who knows, it might surprise me. Same with The Last of Us. I'm like, you know what? I've given this game such a bad rap. Everybody's talking like it's the best game, or at least a game of the year. It can't be that bad. It'll be good. I'll have fun with it. And I played through a few hours of The Last of Us, and I'm like, this is not fun at all. But yeah, that's unpopular opinion number one. The other one, and it's one that I've said a few times already, is that I don't even think Final Fantasy VII is a top 5 Final Fantasy game. Yeah, let that one sink in, Final Fantasy fans. I've gone back and played a couple of times over the course of my life since finishing it the first time. I still believe that the story is not good at all. I believe that the villain is not a good villain. He's just a badass-looking villain. And that can work, but he's supposed to be this like absolute evil, and he's not really. He's just a murderer that looks cool walking through fire. The main character is terrible. Yeah, that's all I can say to that. In fact, my favorite character, for God's sakes, is Yuffie. That should tell you how like weak the cast actually truly is. Compared to games like Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy X, for example, 7 doesn't even come close to me. It just doesn't. I'm still looking forward to the remake quite a bit. Believe me when I say this, I want to see what this remake is like, but I am again reminding myself that it's not that I don't like Final Fantasy VII. By the way, I need to make that clear. I don't hate Final Fantasy VII. I just think it's not as great as people. It's not the game that should be put up on the pedestal for all JRPGs to uphold. I think it's a great game that a lot of people played as their first Final Fantasy and look at it as the best game they've ever played because it got them in. I look at it as a good game. Hell, even if we want to talk the whole, it's my first Final Fantasy. My first Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy IV, and I don't even think it's the best one. I'm trying to remember even where I put it. I think I might have put it third or fourth. My top two are Final Fantasy X is my all-time favorite, but I look at Final Fantasy VI as the best overall. So there's two different ways of looking at it. But yeah, 7 is not the best Final Fantasy. It's not even top 5 as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, last thing. So normally I have a separate video for the Anime Awards. I'll probably end up cutting this from the podcast and making another video just to be like, if you only want to hear the awards, here's that. I don't know when I'll post that. I don't think it'll be right away. But normally I do a separate video for the Anime Awards. I've finally started doing that consistently, and now it's time to go through it again here for the spring. So I gotta tell you, this season sucked. This season absolutely sucked. I started around 15. I ended with 6. And I was telling my friends not long after the season ended that, in all honesty, if I didn't force myself to finish a few of these shows, I think I actually would have been down to 3. But I told myself I need to stick with these 6 unless one is so bad I have to ignore it. Because I can't just keep putting out articles that's like, I watched 2 shows this week. Here's what they were like. I can't do it. I don't feel like that's good enough. I don't feel like, even though I'm doing this for fun, I feel like I still have to have some sort of a standard. And I think that putting up an article and making you read it just to hear me talk about 2 or 3 shows is kind of meh. So I did finish 6, and only one of them realistically finished well. 3 of them finished terribly, 2 of them finished and one of them actually finished well. That's about it. Not every award that I did, if you watched last season's video, not every award is carrying over because there just weren't enough shows to make some of these work. But there are most of the awards that are sticking around. I don't think I'm going to make any new ones because I think I've got a pretty good amount. So anyway, I'm going to run through all the awards. Some of them have silly names to start off with, and then I get to the serious stuff at the end. So these are the not so serious awards. So the first show is, or the first award for that matter, is Why Do I Like This Show So Much? Or Why Do I Like This So Much award, which is the worst show that I finished, and that was Mahou Shoujo Ore. that show is the best example of a show that is just able to do a good enough job with a genre that I cannot stand, that I can't justifiably drop it. That was a show that I forced myself to finish in a way that, like, I could have just dropped the show because I could have said, I just have no interest in watching it. But I didn't have a legitimate reason that was like, oh, well, the characters are really bad, or it's really unfunny, or this frustrated me. I wasn't ever frustrated. I just wasn't, like, diving deep into it. I was just kind of like watching it, smiling here and there, and that was it. Once in a blue moon, the show would pop out something interesting, but realistically speaking, it wasn't that great. So in all honesty, I don't even know if the award counts for this show. Why do I like this so much? I don't even know if that counts. I think it's why did I finish this? But the award is usually devoted to something that I finished and still liked, but was the worst out of the bunch. And then in this case, it just ends up being the worst show that I finished at this point. So there's that. How is this so good? That's for the biggest surprise. And I'm going to have to put an addendum on this one because the award is going to Butler's X Battlers, but I have to put it in brackets now. Butler's X Battlers up until episode 12, up until the finale. Because the first 11 episodes were actually really good. I don't know why people rated it so badly. I think it's just because they're like, oh, it's just a show with cute boys. They're just marketing it to women, whatever. I didn't get that at all. And in all honesty, yeah, there's a lot of really good-looking guys. And this is even necessarily coming from a guy who's bisexual, for that matter. It's just a show that ended up having some cool-looking characters. They had some fun. There was enough of a mystery to keep me interested to see what the answer would be. The answer was obviously extremely underwhelming because anime also does a very good job of being underwhelming sometimes. And the last episode was terrible. But from 1 to 11, there was a lot there that kept me coming back. There were a few episodes that were like, that was not so great. But there were a bunch of episodes that I'm like, that was pretty good. Like, for a show that seems to have nothing going for it, it's not doing that bad a job. So I was really impressed with it. And then the last episode came and it was pure utter garbage. There's no bad awards on this thing because I could go all day on that. But man, just watch the animation in episode 12 and tell me that the budget must have run out or they just stopped caring. Because maybe I was the only person still watching that show. Anyway, the Weeb Straitjacket Award for the wackiest show goes easily to Space Battleship Tiramisu. Only for what I'm immediately going to jump into the next award, which is the Double No Triple Take Award for the most insane moment, is Subaru in episode 1 just murdering everybody while stripping himself naked. That episode alone really got me moving forward into that show because I'm like, holy crap, what is going on with this show? Now, the show as it went on stayed okay, and then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and then it stopped being good. That's another show that ended poorly. And apparently there's a second season, and I'm coin flipping whether I'm even going to continue watching it. But that moment, him getting so upset with the condition of his cockpit, and then stripping to, naked to have his cock in the view. Well, you didn't actually see his dick, whatever. But just the idea of him going absolutely batshit crazy and murdering people while his ass is hanging out in front of the camera for all of us to see is just, I was dying laughing because of the randomness of it. And it ended up being like, obviously at some point he's talking with his own pubic hair at some points in the show, for example. It's definitely wacky as shit and deserves the Weave Straitjacket for the show that is way too much insane to get to the levels of Fooly Cooly, for God's sakes. The last in this set of awards is the Stitches and Tears Award for the funniest moment. And it's the entire episode of Comic Girls that featured Furusan for the first time because of the endless times that she was terrorizing Kaus-chan. Because, as you'll find out later on, Fura has a very special place in my heart now. And that is because she and Kaus-chan do such a fantastic job at complimenting the other. Especially with the fact that Furusan, I should say, is actually really sweet, but loves scaring people because she's a horror writer. And she loves the reactions. And Kaus is perfect for that because she is the most timid, easily scared, and crying-worthy son of a bitch I've ever seen. Holy crap. Those two work together so perfectly. And that episode, I thought the first episode of Space Battleship Tiramisu was going to be my favorite episode, but I think that episode, I don't remember which number it was, but it's the first episode Fura is featured in. And by the way, if you can find it on YouTube, I got it liked, and I might put it in the comments below or in the description below. I probably won't. I'll forget. But there's I guess like a video podcast or a little show that the actual voice actors do about the show and stuff, and they had Fu on for the first time, and she does her crazy, like, creepy horror scream, and it's so good to see this really adorable Japanese girl have, like, scariest fucking voice. It's amazing. So I love her. So anyways, there used to be an award called Lost in the Shuffle, which went to the show that just kind of got lost in the mix, but because there were only 6 shows, it didn't really happen, so that award doesn't exist. So we're going to go straight to the Ecchi Awards, because you know me. I love that stuff. By the way, if you're new and you don't know, I'm a harem guy, so there's a lot of stuff like this. So anyway, the Sexy Ecchi Award for Best Ecchi goes to Comic Girls. That's pretty straightforward. Pretty much the only show that really had a lot of it. The I'm Going to Jail Award for the most extreme ecchi is Tachibana-kan Triangle, because a lot of nudity and a lot of let's say underage girls. Let's just go with that. Next up, the Sweet Sweet Dreams Award for the best ecchi moment was Koyume and Ruki from Comic Girls practicing ecchi moments for Ruki's steamy graphic novels. Honestly, it wasn't even the biggest ecchi moment, but it was really like the only like really notable one, because I could just say, oh, so and so showering or so and so stripping, but that's boring. It's got to be something. But that was probably the one that stood out for me. And then we get to the fun stuff. The Golden Husbando Award for the most dateable male character goes to Yuki Fujishiro from Butler's Ex Battlers, or as we all know him, Dracula, because that boy is pretty, and he's also funny as fuck. The fact that he's kind of like me in terms of, when you don't want to do anything, you just don't give a shit. If somebody's like, why aren't you going to do this? I'm like, nah, I don't really care. I just want to nap. I don't nap. I'm just like, fuck it. I don't care. I'm just going to play video games. That's all I'm going to do. He kind of fits me to a T, so he's kind of like a perfect fit for me, There are a few other characters. I mean, mostly from Butler's Ex Battlers in this case, but he's the one that easily stood out. The Golden Waifu for most dateable female character is a tie, because I just couldn't decide between the two. It's Ruki Irokawa from Comic Girls or Mato Katori from Amanchu Advance, because both of them have their own different things. Ruki obviously has the love that I also have of romance and sexual content in anime, so that's also a plus. Ruki's also just a super sweet girl. Like, she's kind of like that mixture of, the overused character who's just extremely sweet and helpful and whatever else, but she's also got that extra flaw and that extra bit of self-doubt in herself, because she's embarrassed that she's basically an ecchi writer. Like, she's a softcore graphic novel writer, so there is that. And the other one with Mato, I think it just comes from the aspect of she's older and she has that more mature sense of her, but she still has that very fun side to her. She's very tomboyish in a way, and I see a lot in her that I could easily enjoy. No, I'm not sure if I get into scuba diving per se, but I could definitely see hanging around with her and her being like my best friend in the world, because she seems like such a super cool dude. And I do say dude intentionally, because she'd definitely be one of the boys for sure. And the last stuff from this category, which is the fun stuff, is the Eye Candy Awards. Now, I do up to 3 because there's no way you could possibly pick, especially when I have a full season of like 10 plus shows that I finish and there's a couple harems here and there. Just the sexiest female character alone is impossible to get. So there's usually 3. So for the men, obviously Yuki from Butler's Ex Battlers is one of them. I dived back and forth between a bunch of the others in that show, but Haruto is the other one from Butler's that I went with. And then Subaru from Tiramisu is the last one I went with. All of them were fantastic. Very, very, very handsome young men. In terms of women, again, 2 from one and 1 from the other. I went with Ruki and Tsubasa from Comic Girls. I was very tempted to put Fura in there, but there's just not quite enough of her. And in all honesty, Koyume, while she is super hot. She's drawn to be that way, but she's not the kind of sexy that I'm 100% behind. I'm fully willing to say that the majority of people would put her as the sexiest girl, but she's not my favorite kind of sexy. So I ended up going with Ruki and Tsubasa because they're not as, let's just be honest, they're not as big as Koyume, and I tend to go more for the tomboy look anyway. And then Mato I ended up putting as the third in that. For the same reasons, I love my tomboys. What can I say? So we get to the actual awards. The best OP, and this can be just about the music, but it can also have to do with the animation. Like Blend S did not have the best song when they won that award, but it's also because the animation for the OP was just perfect. In this case, it's easily the song, as I give this one to Butler's Ex-Battlers, with Old Codex. I believe the band is. It's Old Codex, I'm pretty sure. They're usually really good for music, and then this one was just perfect. Comic Girls was pretty good too. I do like songs where the voice actresses sing in the characters that they play, which is kind of cool, but I'm a big metal guy, so Butler's really had that one for me. The best voice cast is easily Comic Girls, just for Fura and Kaos-chan alone. Just for those two, that already wins. But you still have Ruki, you still have Tsubasa, you still have Koyume. Hell, you even have the matron, who's really good. They're all fantastic. There's no cast that even came remotely close. I do like Amanchu's voice cast pretty well, but I feel like Futaba is not very good. I don't like her voice actors very much. Hikari, on the other hand, I absolutely adore. I adore. Mato, I adore. Hell, let's just say Cha, for God's sakes, is a great voice actor. But overall, I found myself absolutely adoring everybody on Comic Girls, whereas every other show I could find a few flaws. The best animation, I'm still kind of flip-flopping on it. I really would have given it to Butler's headed up for that last episode. I think for the best overall, because it's kind of encompassing everything, I think Amanchu does the best job of it because the uniqueness of the way that the characters are drawn when they're in their silly mode, it really brings out the best from that show. It really gets the comedy flowing, and I think that animation really aids to it. I was originally had this penciled as tiramisu, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, it's not actually that great. So yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with Amanchu on that one. In terms of character design, though, I will flip and go to Comic Girls because, again, a lot of cute girls, and the diversity of everybody, it works perfectly. Best fantasy, Butler's just wins on the fact that it's probably the only one that fits in that category. The same kind of goes for action, but again, I'm putting in the asterisk because I'm counting every episode except the last one. I'm just gonna skip those two now at this point. I mean, I've given you the answer. I just don't really have a good reason. In terms of fantasy and action anime, I didn't really watch anything that was the two shows that I actually truly enjoyed by the end were Comic Girls and Amanchu, and that's it. Best drama was Amanchu, the only one that really has it. I mean, actually, Hina Matsuri did a good job of it with Anzu. Shit. You know what? I'm gonna give it to Hina Matsuri for that one episode where she finally has a home and isn't homeless anymore. That episode was fucking-tastic. That nearly made me fucking cry. By the way, if there was an award for Lost in the Shuffle this year, I guess Hina Matsuri would be, because I actually didn't even have them not jotted down for anything. You know what? Let's even get to the side for a moment, because I got a little bit of time. As I look at my timing here, I'm actually over an hour. Whatever. I always say I'm going to go over an hour. I'm just going to do it in a quick aside. Everybody is talking about Hina Matsuri being the best comedy in ages. I'm going to say this in the same aspect that I did with The Last of Us. I don't think Hina Matsuri is a bad anime, but I really, really don't understand why people are calling it the funniest show that they've seen in a long time. Because a lot of the jokes they use are completely overused, they're repeated constantly, and they're not good callbacks. Hina has her moments. Anzu has her moments, but she's been better off as a dramatic character now. Oh my god. Hitomi, I thought was going to be my favorite character, and then even her jokes started to get old. Like that face she does where she has her tongue hanging out and she's like that, shee! That got old. Everything that show did got old. There were moments that I laughed, and then they kept repeating the joke over the course of the 12 episodes, and I stopped laughing. In fact, the show just did a better job of making me almost cry than it did making me laugh by the end of it. So, I don't know, man. I don't get why people like that show so much. And I'm trying to not say that you're wrong for saying it's the best show, but man, I'm not a bitter fuck, and I'm not trying to be anti anything, but I went in going open to everything. I already didn't think the show was the greatest thing walking in. I liked the first couple episodes, And then I just started repeating everything. I'm like, wow, this is already like kind of like they've run out of ideas. Like they're uninspired at this point. And then the article started popping up being like, this is the greatest show ever. Like this is the best comedy we've ever seen. And I'm like, really? Like what the hell are you watching? Because I don't know what's going on. Like this is not funny at all. Like they're just reusing old material now. But anyway, I digress. That's just how I feel on it. And I'm not saying that you're wrong for really liking the show. I'm just saying that I don't think it was worthy of the universal praise that it got. It's not that good. The last few awards: best comedy, not Hina Matsuri, but Comic Girls. Again, Furusan is a huge component of that. Best non-human character goes to Cha, the cat from Amanchu Advance, because every time that cat is on screen, I'm smiling. My smile gets wider and wider every single time he comes on screen because he's so freaking adorable. And he ends up setting the mood. Like if there's ever a moment where it's a little bit sad, he kind of breaks you out of it, and it is perfect. The best couple or duo usually ends up going to couples because it just ends up working better that way. And I guess it's both in this case because Hikari and Futaba from Moanchu, I really, really did want to give this to Fura and Kaos-chan, but they don't spend enough time with each other to really justify it. Whereas we've had Hikari and Futaba together for 2 seasons now. And I really hope there's a third one and they finally just fucking nail this shit down, because it's so plainly obvious that this show was meant to be a Yuri anime, and they are hiding it. Because again, this is something that has driven me nuts about anime for forever, is that they are so goddamn unable to pull the trigger on a relationship, on a love interest, on a loving relationship. They never fucking do it. Same goes for harems. It's why, as much as I don't think it's a great anime or a great harem, fucking oh my god, Rakudai Kishino Cavalry is a great anime just for the fact that it actually had the fucking main character find a love interest and they both reciprocate it within like halfway into the season. Whereas I'm watching Infinite Stratos for 2 seasons. By the way, I still love that show to death. But for fuck's sakes, every girl under the sun is making a move on him, and Ichika is still fucking out of his mind stupid on that front. He could literally just get whatever the hell he wants, and he could probably get all of them and they would not care. They're just like, whatever, like you're the only guy in school, let's go for it. Anime just hates putting relationships on screen. It's been 2 seasons. I don't know if there's going to be a third one, but you've had 2 seasons and you haven't even hinted at it. You've had like a kind of a moment where I guess it's implied that, you know, Hikari maybe looks at Futaba that way, maybe even looks at Kokoro that way, especially now that we know Kokoro's a guy, where she does that whole, but the thing is, when she does the whole, oh la la, like my prince is here, I feel like she's half joking. It's hard to tell. There's no 100% guaranteed showing that there's a love interest going on, and it's fucking obvious there is, but the show refuses to acknowledge it. But together those two are fantastic, and you want to see them get together. The show just needs to fucking do it already. But I digress. The best male character is going to go to Yuki from Butler's Ex-Battlers. I wanted to give it to Subaru, but Subaru got pretty old pretty quick. I when I wrote this list initially, it was like halfway into the season, and it's obviously changed a lot. But yeah, Yuki just... There wasn't really an amazing male character. So Yuki kind of just gets it on the way that he doesn't do anything wrong. He just ends up being something that makes me smile. But man, like it was another weak season for male characters. I mean, I've said it before. I think most male characters in anime are boring as shit. So, best female character, Fura from Comic Girls, no question at all. I love Ruki, I love Tsubasa, I love Kaos-chan, but Fura is just the best character I've seen in a while. Every time she pops in, I'm fucking smiling like a motherfucker. I'm dying of laughter half the time. She really makes the show. I thought that the show was already top-notch before she came in. She made the show go over the hump, and it was now one of my favorite shows, without a shadow of a doubt. They didn't end very well, but she made the 5 or so episodes that up until the very end, when things start to get a little bit depressing and a little bit real, and those episodes were fantastic. The episodes that she starts up in, my God, those were fun. And she is a fantastic character. Reina Ueda, you did a fantastic job voicing her. All just fully deserving. Show of the season. it's either Amanchu or Comic Girls, but I kind of almost don't want to give them to any of them because none of them finished well. I'm going to quickly take a second here and talk to you while I pop up my week 12 and week 13 because I just want to see how I talked about them when the final episodes ended. Amanchu definitely ended better. Comic Girls had the better run, but Amanchu definitely had a much better end to it. Because Amanchu didn't, play around with things. They actually had conclusions. Stuff kind of got a little bit closer. Mato and Peter are actually assumed to be a thing, but again, it's not. Hikari and Futaba are getting closer and closer, and Futaba, most importantly, got her license. Her advanced license to scuba dive. Comic Girls, on the other hand, while it was a really good run, pretty much spent the last 2 episodes taking the comedy out of the show. So it's still a coin toss, because if we're talking up to episode 10, Comic Girls wins in a landslide, but if we're talking the last 2 episodes in terms of finishing off their show, Amanchu wins in spades. Whew. I'm glad this is the last word because I'm spending a lot more time thinking about it than I did. I had this written down since I wrote this in the midway point, and I'm now actually torn. I probably would have gone to Comic Girls, but the ending is so bad. Oh. I'm going to go with Comic Girls, and for one reason only. Comic Girls has 2 episodes that I did not like. Amanchu has 3. Because the Peter Pan thing went on way too long. I said it when that arc ended. That was 3 episodes that we lost. That's 3 episodes that were taken away from Futaba getting her license, so they rushed it at the end. It was 3 episodes that took away from Hikari and Futaba's relationship growing further. It took away from Mato and Peter getting close. Like, they could have done that in 1 episode and pushed Mato and Peter a little bit better. You don't get more of Kokoro. There were so many more moments for different kinds of drama, and this one was just weird and kind of wasted. Whereas Comic Girls just spent 2 episodes just trying to be more realistic and trying to show a little bit more of what the life of a manga artist, I guess, actually is. But I think overall, Amanchu has 9 good episodes. Comic Girls has 10. So by that logic, Comic Girls just wins by quantity. Honestly, either could work. But overall, the takeaway from this is that the summer, or the spring season for that matter, sucked. It's going to be interesting if he... Because, by the way, actually, this is how it ended. At the end of this month, there is a convention in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, that is called Con Bravo. I will be doing 3 panels there. 1 on gaming, 1 on professional wrestling, which I'm super excited about. I've been fighting for 3 years to get that. But 1 that I will be doing with anime, and it encompasses the entire year after the convention. And I've done it for 2 years now. This is going to be year number 3. And I've been lucky enough to do it with YouTuber Tristan Arcada Gallant. You may know him also as Glass Reflections on YouTube. And I watched a video of his recently where he called this season one of the best that he's watched. And I don't know if he's going to... I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet. He hasn't gotten back to me, or the organizers of the convention haven't gotten back to me. But I'm hoping to have him on this panel again for the 3rd year in a row. And it's going to be really interesting because we are on complete opposite sides of the spectrum. Now, granted, I did not watch shows that have already continued on. Like, I didn't watch Food Wars this season. I didn't watch Steins Gate because I haven't watched Steins Gate yet. And other shows like that. So he has a few more things to choose from, but he's one of the guys that really loves Hina Matsuri, and he found a lot to love in that season where I had a lot of trouble. Granted, I also only watch what's on Crunchyroll because I'm not spending the money to get Netflix just to watch 2 more shows. I'm not paying for Amazon service because fuck that. I can't afford to just throw $10, $15 back and forth at 3 or 4 different services to watch anime. I can't do it. There is a list of shows that I'm planning on watching from the spring season, that I'm planning on watching from season before, that I still have to watch, that I'm just going to have to torrent. That's honestly what I have to do, because I don't have the money, nor I can't justify spending a lot of money just to watch shows that I miss. Like I have to do it with torrents because I can't afford to. Now, if my luck changes, who knows? Then I can put the money forward and get Netflix. I can get Anime Strike and stuff like that. But I can't right now, and I'm not willing to do one or the other. Crunchyroll is where my allegiance lies right now, and until they do something to change that, that's where I'm staying. But Tristan and I, if we're on the panel together, are going to have a very interesting conversation because he really loved that season, and I absolutely couldn't stand it. This season, the only upside to it is that it was only 6 shows I had to watch a week, so I could get through it almost in a day and not have to waste my time every other day trying to catch up on shows. Because this is what's going to happen as I start the summer season. There's at least 12 shows I already have my eyes on, and that's not even counting other things that I don't know about. So there's a lot of shows I got to watch. And I'm actually excited for the summer. The spring, I was all right with. There were a few shows here and there that I was interested in. Obviously, Amanchu being one, Comic Girls was another. They ended up being pretty good. But a lot of the shows I thought I'd like didn't come out to anything. And in all honesty, if I was a true critic when it came to this season, Amanchu and Comic Girls would be the only ones left. Maybe Butler's Ex Battlers. Actually, you know what? Yeah, you know what? That would be there. So those 3 would be there. Hinamatsuri I would have dropped because I gave it way too many chances because I wanted to see what the fuss was about. And every time that I was about to drop it, I have my system where I put something on notice, and if the next episode is garbage too, I drop it. And I literally would have dropped it had it not been for Anzu in that last moment when she started crying because she finally found a home. That show, I was literally typing up I cannot believe that a show this good in people's eyes is so bad in mine. And I'm going to drop it for this reason and this reason and this reason. And then the Anzu moment happened, and I flipped. Now, it actually ended pretty well. I forgot about that. It actually didn't do too bad with its end for the last episode. But, that show I would have dropped if I'd been a lot more critical of it early on. I probably wouldn't have made it to the Anzu moment. Mahu Shoujo Ore, I would have dropped because it's a magical girl anime and it sucks most of the time. But every time that I wanted to drop it, it did something funny enough that I'm like, you know what, I'll see what happens. Or I kept having to tell myself, you have 6 shows left. You can't just keep dropping shows. And then Space Battleship Tiramisu, once it got halfway in, stopped putting all the fun in and just started to try to gross you out. And I'm just like, no, that's boring. Stop it. But yeah, the way that I look at it, this season sucked. Absolutely sucked. Doesn't deserve the praise that it's getting. Now, if I had watched shows like, say, Steins Gate and Food Wars, if Food Wars hadn't had a shitty fucking new villain, who knows? But from the stuff that I watched, and the stuff that I had access to for that matter, not a good season at all. But anyways, so that's the awards, and that's going to probably do it for the show. So, once again, guys, this is not intended to be a weekly occurrence. My hope is that, especially once I get my own place and I can have my computer and my microphone and everything else connected directly to my router, because I know I have the speed that can do it, but because I'm on Wi-Fi, the connection obviously gets a little muddy. I want to be able to stream this live, probably on YouTube for the time being, and who knows, if I feel like I can throw a couple of bucks to have this actually archived on some sort of podcast stream and whatever, I might do it. It also depends on how my bills go, because obviously I'm going to be spending even more money because my bills are going to go up because I'm going to be probably living solo for a little while. So, once again, guys, I can't tell you enough how much it means to me that you guys are even watching this, for God's sakes. If somebody's actually watching this and has listened to the whole thing, the fact that you are willing to listen to, at this point, almost 80 full minutes of me talking and nobody else bouncing off is extremely flattering. And coincidentally also embarrassing, and almost me wanting to say, what are you doing? But I really do appreciate it. In the same way that there are podcasts that I listen to where it's just one guy talking and he talks for 2 hours, and I'm like, man, the stuff that he says is so interesting. The fact that somebody thinks the same about me is the utmost flattery that I can possibly have, and I'm so grateful and thankful that even somebody, even one person, would consider that. The same goes for my videos, the same goes for my blog posts. I really appreciate that you guys do that, and I hope that with this show, and hopefully with more things I do down the line, that I'm able to at least make you think that sticking around, or at least coming across me and staying here now, has been worth it. And yeah, that's that. So As always, you guys can follow me on Twitter at CSRadical. And you know what? I'll put this at the end of it. I expect nothing out of it right now. But if you have any questions that you would like me to answer, say here on the show, for example, at the end of the show, because that's something. In all honesty, there are two goals that I have as somebody who has been a YouTuber and a blogger for a while. I have two goals. One goal is the convention I'm going to, Con Bravo. I'm doing 3 panels there, but I'm not a guest. I'm a community. Like, I basically sign up. I've registered just as a regular guy going to the convention, but you can also sign up to try to do panels there. And I've been doing that for 4 years now. And my goal is to actually be invited to Con Bravo, because that's my home convention. I'm not a big guy on big conventions. I don't go to, like, in other places here in Canada. I don't go to Anime North. I don't go to Fan Expo. I don't go to Hamilton Comic Con. I don't go to the big ones because I don't. It's not that I don't think they're important. It's that I just don't like walking around a ton of people because I have a problem with the way people act. So it's really hard for me to deal with a place where there's thousands of people walking around or thousands of people standing around doing nothing and getting in the way. And I just hate lines as well. And Con Bravo's nice because I don't stand in lines for 3 fucking hours waiting for shit. But that's goal number 1. Goal number 2 is to be able to have Q&A sessions. That's the other goal. And I'm not saying that because I want you guys to suddenly just give me questions. I mean this to happen organically. You know, I want people to be like, hey, what's your opinion on this? Or, hey, I saw this. What do you think about it? Or hey, do you play this? Or have you listened to this? Like, even just saying, like, hey, I found this thing. Tell me what you think about it. Like, that stuff, that's the kind of stuff that I love too, because I love fan interaction. I've had the chance to talk with people that are on the opposite side, that they are the creators. I've talked to guys from the various times that I've been fans of people. I've talked to Gaijin Goomba, Movie Bob, Alpha Omega Sin, Jonathan Young, Family Jewels, obviously Glass Reflections. I've talked to so many different people. I even had a 2-second conversation with Tron, which he's not going to remember, and I care less that he does. But to me, just to be able to have just a momentary conversation with someone that I believe is so famous, even though they don't think they are. Most YouTubers are very chill in that aspect. But to be able to watch as all these really popular guys can have literally 2-hour long videos that they're just answering questions on Twitter or emails or in the chat, that's so cool. And I would love to just literally sit down for an hour or more on a stream and just chat with people. But obviously I'm at a stage where that's not a thing, but that's what a goal is for. My goal when I started the blog, for example, was just to be able to do something every week. Then it became something a couple articles a week. And then it became I want to do an article every day. And then that changed. As everything else does. I reached a certain goal. I proved to myself that I could do it. Now I'm moving to something else. My next goal was to get back to YouTube and start to... Excuse me. I'm getting burpy now because, I haven't drank anything or eaten anything in a little while. My goal with YouTube when I came back was to at least make a video a week if I could. If I had the time to, I would do it. And I don't know if there's a week that I missed, but I've tried my ass off to make sure I do something. And now this show is kind of a way to facilitate that. But that's that, and you guys don't have to send anything in. I'm not saying, hey, I would love this goal to be reached, so, please give me that. No, if you legitimately want to send something in, do it. You can either, DM me at CSRadical on Twitter, or I have an email set up for it, and I've had it for a while, and just nobody's ever used it, because, again, I don't expect anything out of it. It's askcsradical@gmail.com. That's askcsradical@gmail.com. So, once again, guys, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me. And hopefully I get to make these shows live at some point. I'm hoping to have an apartment in the fall. That's my goal. I don't necessarily think that'll happen, but if I do, my goal is to have a setup there so I can do at least audio. I don't know if I'll go video yet. I think what I'll probably try to do is at least do it in audio form first to make sure that my connection can hold it. And then once that stays consistent, maybe move that to video again, because I want to be able to do the best that I can with the time that I have and with the resources I have. So, once again, because I'm terrible at closing things, as anybody who's been around me long enough to know, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching, in that matter, because this is on YouTube, but hey, it's an audio podcast. What are you going to do? And I'll see you next time.